Before we begin, let's acknowledge that Xuan and Imbibitor Lunae are not comparable. One is a top tier damage dealer and the other is a top tier sustain character. They fit different roles in the team and they are not competing against one another. Let's talk about the value of their respective banners. I am looking at this topic as a free-to-play player or a low spender. Before we begin, we have to talk about the star of the show on both banners. Let's start with Imbibitor Lunae, since he is phase 1 of 1.3. My number one rule will always be aesthetics over mechanics. Imbibitor Lunae's closest comparison is a QQ without the gambling part. Imaginary element currently do not have any true DPS. No, please don't say DPS Welt. I can also say DPS Lucha. Will those two work as DPS? Maybe. Probably, but they cannot reach the damage numbers that Imbibitor Lunae can. Imbibitor Lunae is a bona fide pure DPS. He was made to do big PP damage. He has no competition in the same element. He fits the need perfectly. If you do not have at least 2 damage dealers such as Jing Yuan, Blade, Sela, Kafka on your account right now, then his pull value tremendously goes up. He only has one glaring issue. If you hate skill point management, then Imbibitor Lunae may not be for you. You can't just keep spamming his level 3 skill every turn. It would be nice, but that's not how skill point works in this game. Since he devours so many skill points, you have to manage the skill point usage of the rest of the team. You have to figure out when to use his level 1 skill, when to use his level 2 skill, when to use his level 3 skill, when to use his ulti to get stacks, when to save up some SP for your other characters, when do you time your Tengyun ulti. The list goes on and on and on. There is so much micromanagement you need to do when using Imbibitor Lunae compared to other existing damage dealers. The hassle, however, is completely worth it because he has the potential to be the hardest hitting damage dealer. Let's talk about the rest of his banner. Starting with number 1, Asta. Asta is an amazing support. Speed is so important in the game. Her ulti gives your whole team speed, and then if she's wearing a new support set, it gives even more speed. Your whole team can run circles around the enemies with Asta on your team. With the Asta speed steroid, your whole team can go out to find the One Piece, come back before the enemies can take their action in that turn. There are certain speed breakpoints that exist in the game, and by hitting those breakpoints, characters can take additional action in certain turns. For example, in Memory of Chaos, on the first cycle, characters with 134 or more speed can attack up to twice in that turn. Having Asta makes it so much easier for your team to hit those speed breakpoints. The only issue with Asta is that she needs her Eidolons to be SP positive. As mentioned earlier, Imbibitor Lunae wants all the skill points, and a low Eidolon level for Asta isn't going to cut it out for him. But overall, in my opinion, Asta is an absolute win here. Number 2, Yukong. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She is hands down the hardest support to play because of her E buff, taking up a stack every time an ally attacks. It's so hard to manage her and speed tune her. Most players don't want to go through such hassle. However, she is the only harmony support for the mono imaginary team. I personally don't see the value in building Yukong when there is a better Foxian beauty to build who is younger, easier to use, SP positive, and can fit into more teams. So overall, in my opinion, Yukong is a decent here, but she is necessary if you want to build that mono imaginary team. It could have been worse. Imagine getting Hook instead. Finally, number 3, March 7th. March 7th has helped many players clear MLC stage 10 several times. She is an amazing shielder and is even a slightly healer with her E6. She is a decent sustain character. While not being Lucha level busted, she still gets the job done. Her most valuable part of her kit is her shield and cleanse. Cleansing is so important in some of the harder difficulty stages of MLC. Look at all these annoying bosses. Life will be miserable trying to beat them without a cleanser on your team. With all those praises about March 7th out the way, let's start the slandering. Why on this flat earth would anyone use March 7th if they have a Bailu, a Japart, and a Lucha? Plus, with Xuan and Lynx coming out right after, there are just much more options to choose from over March 7th. So overall, in my opinion, March 7th is the least desirable of the 3 4-stars featured in the banner, but she is still a decent character by herself. I will never recommend anyone to pull on any banner just to try to get the feature 4-star. Only, and I stress this, only pull on the banner if you want the featured 5-star. The highest value character here is Asta, because she is a speed demon and can take your whole team up in action order, just by breaking through certain speed breakpoints. The least value character here is March 7th. By herself, she is great, however, she provides nothing to Imbibitor Lunae team. Moving on to Xuan. Has this ever happened to you? The battle just started. There are 3 mob enemies, and each of them took a turn to slap your tank unit in the face, and she just flopped over onto the ground. All that happening with your Japar just standing there looking pretty. Rejoice because the whole universe is releasing this one unit to solve all of your Foxian beauty problems. No, not this guy. I didn't pull for him. We are talking about Xuan, also known as the head of the Divination Commission, future general of Lord Fu, as long as Jingyuan retires, sassy lost child of Honkai Star Rail. She will keep your team alive like she's Lord Cha, and give stat buff to your team like she's a Harmony character. Hoyoverse really is trying to overload these new characters' kits to tempt us into pulling. If any of these 2 scenarios fit you, then I strongly encourage you to pull for Xuan instead. 1. If you didn't pull for Lord Cha and you are in desperate need of an actual sustained character, Xuan is the savior. 2. If you have Silverwolf and Sela, then you are 1 Xuan away from completing the Quantum Exodia team. Mono Quantum team is highly regarded because now you can completely ignore element matching when the core game mechanic is to match elements to do substantial damage. Let's continue on with the rest of the banner. Number 1. Hook. For all you Jingleo and Topaz wanners, rejoice because you are not going to get Hook on their banner. I have been on the Jingleo hype train since day 1. If I see Hook on Jingleo's banner, I might not pull. All jokes aside, Hook is just in a bad situation. They're just way better 4-star damage dealer to build. Number 2. Pela. I rate Pela really highly. In my opinion, I think she brings so much to a team. She is SP positive, you don't have to use her skill every turn, and she gets her ulti extremely quickly. You can remove buffs from enemy units, and you can completely shred through enemy defenses. The only other defense shredding character is Silverwolf, and we all know how busted Silverwolf is. So overall, in my opinion, Pela is a major win on this banner. Number 3, Lynx. She is very interesting. Her kit looks very overloaded for a 4-star character. Once again, her being a quantum abundance makes her much more valuable for people trying to complete their mono quantum team. My initial impression of her is just a better Natasha. Here is what Lynx and Natasha both have in their kits. Singular healing with their skill, AoE emergency healing with their ulti, continuous healing with their talents, both characters healing scales off HP. Now here's where Lynx completely excels Natasha. Her E also increases max HP with aggro manipulator built in. Her cleanse is not on her skill, but rather it's on her ulti. That makes it an AoE cleanse. Her technique gives continuous healing to the entire team for several turns at the start of the battle. So overall, in my opinion, Lynx is the most valuable 4-star character to pull on this banner. Mainly because she is a Natasha upgrade and there are still very few sustained characters currently in this game cycle. That is all for my thoughts on the upcoming 1.3 character banners. Thanks for watching, and if you disagree with anything I have just said, feel free to let me know in the comments below.